All right, guys. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm Brian Ciccone. I'm the Director of Admissions. I am not a tech specialist, but we had to reset the link, so we're just going to send it out one more time. A couple of things. One, please double check your spam, right? Things might be getting sent to you that you're missing. The fact that you're here, it's a good sign that you're getting our communications. But if you're watching at home, check your spam. Double check that you're getting those messages from LaSalle. Two, how many people in the room have their child been for a shadow day? Shadow days? How many people are planning on a shadow day? Great. So we've got 3 more days available before the exam. At the exam on the 7th and the 14th, LaSalle is actually going into its midterms and then on to winter break. We will open more days in January, so right now the last 3 days of shadows are available, open to anyone with or without an application, okay? So please come shadow. Make sure that your application is submitted, right? That application fee is part of the registration for the exam, all right? So again, if you've gotten into the application, you've gotten to that checklist and you selected your exam date, you're doing great, okay? If you haven't seen the options to choose an exam, come see me afterwards. We'll double check everything, all right? Not a big deal, a lot of time, but I just want to make sure that you guys are able to get to the exam, sit for it. Even if you didn't get that application done and you come, you're going to take this, we'll make sure that you do it, and then you'll get that application submitted. It's either the 7th or 14th. Please don't over-concern yourself with the day you've selected. So if life pops up, as life often does pop up on the 7th, come the 14th. We're just trying to get a sense of numbers so that we have the right number of classrooms to put people in, but it's not like if you change dates in your mind that it's going to make a big difference, okay? So the 7th and the 14th, those are the big dates for the exam. And they're not hard and fast, they just give us a sense of, are we expecting 100 kids on the 7th or 200 kids on the 7th? And the same for the 14th. So again, if you feel like you missed it on the 7th because something happens, just come the 14th. It'll be okay. It's not a hard and fast thing. If you said the 14th and you wake up on the 7th and you're feeling like, today's gonna be a good day for testing, come on in, all right, we'll make it happen. Just to introduce the night while we're getting things started. LaSalle Academy as an institution has a tradition that is based in our founder's pedagogy. He believed in that good education should be made available to all people regardless of economic status, right? He had a specific care and concern for the working class and the poor. That goes back 300 years when only the very rich elite were receiving education. And our founder said, you know what? The way to break cycles of poverty, the way to raise people up, is to give access in education to working class and poor people. So when we do this financial aid night, we really are trying to make a LaSalle education available to people who are eligible, right? Now when I say eligible, the admissions process is the primary thing, and Patrick's going to explain that a little bit more. But we need you to get the application in for review, for acceptance, for that decision on financial aid to come through. So I know that a couple of people who registered for tonight haven't done the application for admissions, and maybe you are someone who's going to start the application on admissions and financial aid after tonight. That's great. But make it through the review process is really the first gateway of the access to LaSalle Academy. And we want to make this available to as many people as we possibly can. That being said, I'm very fond of LaSalle Academy. I've been here for 19 years. It is a place where good happen every day. It is an investment and it is a sacrifice, and we don't hide that fact. It's great that families model to their children the importance of education and the value of making sacrifices because it is an investment. It's an investment in the future of your child. The success, the network, the access, the experiences, the opportunities pay off in the future. So I understand very closely, and Monica, if you're back there, for the people in the room, wave. That's my new best friend, Monica Rodriguez. I'll make her get on the video if you're watching at home. Monica is an expert in financial aid. She is been a great addition to our team. She's brand new to LaSalle this year. She knows very well, I know very well how education can change a life. If you've been looking at some of our materials, the average LaSalle graduate walks away with $16,000 in scholarship money towards college. And that's the average of 300 kids. So some kids are making a lot more. One of our students last year hustled so hard, he is paying $0 for tuition on scholarships that he picked up, 1,000 here, 1,000 there, 2,000 here, and that's our college counseling office at work. So making a sacrifice is hard. Modeling a sacrifice and modeling how important education is to your family and your children, that is good. And I hope that LaSalle will repay you that sacrifice, will repay you that investment in your child's future. That's what we want to see happen, that they go off, they become successful, hopefully that they come back and serve their communities right here in Providence, that they do good in the world, but they're successful and happy for themselves. So that's my pitch on why LaSalle is a great place, even though I know it's not easy always to be in a tuition-based school, but the value is there. That could be huge. So with that, I give you back to Mr. Meehan, Patrick, our COO, if you're joining us just out there. He runs our business office. He's got an amazing team who are here to help you tonight. We are available in our office. I am extension 122. Give me a call. Give our team a call. Ms. Rodriguez up there is bilingual. So if you are more comfortable speaking, I'm sorry. English, Spanish, Portuguese, and I would say a fourth language, super cool. So call us, we want to help. Call the business office, they want help. And then I'm going to give it to Patrick, he's going to walk you through this. Have a great night, and I'll be after if you have questions.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the introduction and the setup. So with that, we can sort of dive right in, and hopefully you guys can learn about the process. I will, if you have questions along the way, for those of you that are here with us, please feel free to stop me. We'll have time for questions at the end, but if there's something up on a slide or something I say that maybe you don't understand, please just stop me. I'd be happy to clarify or answer any questions as we sort of go along. We did get a number of questions in advance from everybody that did have the opportunity to register, so thank you for that. So those questions are either answered throughout the presentation or at the end, some that maybe didn't fit in as directly. I have kind of called out specifically and will address. So if you have a lingering question that just don't otherwise see answered, it may be coming at the end as well. So
Mr. Meehan, can I just interrupt one more time?
Yes.
If you're at home on YouTube, our chat was disabled, and I didn't want to start the link over. If you go to our admission page on LaSalle Academy, it's lasalle-academy.org/admissions. There is a new link, submit questions. Open that, we'll be monitoring questions up in the booth.
Great, thank you, Brian. And if for whatever reason, for those of you that aren't with us, if you have any trouble with that, certainly feel free to reach out to us in the office tomorrow or over the next few as you go through this process. So with that, so tonight, what is kind of the goals from my perspective? Hopefully make this as effective for all of you. That you'll learn the important dates, you'll understand what the application process looks like from you, what is needed from you throughout this process, and where to be watchful for things. What LaSalle does with that application, once you get it, how some degree insight into what that review process looks like, so you can understand that side of the process. Then a kind of a breakout of what do typical awards look like, looking at kind of current data and subsidized along those measures, so you can kind of get a sense. And then again, just kind of open forum for any other questions and some of those specific questions that were submitted to us beforehand. So jump right into the dates. So this for everybody that is in the room or online. All of these dates are also on the website. Much of this information that we are going over is on the website, though I know it can be a lot to digest, not in writing, and everybody learns differently. So we want to share it in as many forms as possible to make this process as accessible and manageable as possible for all of you. So the first date to really be cognizant of, at this point, the application is open, so I took that off of here, is December 31st. So that is what we kind of call our priority application deadline. So priority application means essentially that means you will have less required supporting documentation. You would only require 2023 tax information and would not need to wait for 2024 information. So that's an advantage. And then for all of you in the room in particular, as new families, the biggest advantage is that on January 31st, after the admissions process goes through and on the, when you are accepted, you would, on that same day, your determination notice in terms of financial aid. So there is no lag time, no disconnect. You don't get asked to deposit without understanding what you'd be committing to financially or any of that. So I think if anybody that's here now, I certainly hope all of you would, if you are going to continue with an application, meet that December 31st deadline and keep yourselves as current in the process. Otherwise, it does kind of become a little a waiting time because, as you can see, sort of the next deadline is February 14th for what we would call our standard applications. So in between that is the initial deposit deadline. Now, if you miss that priority deadline, an active financial aid application, we can work with you on that deposit deadline. One thing we do not do and do not want to do is ask somebody to or otherwise commit if they don't understand what they're financially committing to. So that can get adjusted, but again, it kind of just delays the process throughout. If you're in the standard application deadline, you're probably not necessarily harmed in terms of your award, but it can certainly prolong that process. So we like to get the information that you as the parents are most concerned about, or not most concerned about, but is an extremely important factor in the decision. What is the cost going to be? At the same time that hopefully the information to your sons and daughters that they're accepted to come here reaches their hands. So that way, there's not two different decision points and a waiting game for you. So after that, enrolling in the tax payment plan. I know surveyed of you before, but so I assume most of you that have been in private schools or parochial schools have used fax or some other system for billing. So that's our tuition billing system. So we just need you to sign up and create a payment plan, and then come June, that's when payments would begin for next school year. So that is, in terms of the financial aid calendar, sort of how that all works. And again, just to re-emphasize, and I'll probably repeat it a few times throughout the night, because we do have families that it just sometimes gets lost in all of the information that comes at you. You just make sure that you're attentive to this process, that you're doing all the steps in the admissions process, because if your son or daughter is not accepted yet, we do not issue financial aid information. So the processes are managed separately and concurrently. So both, it's most beneficial to be both at the same time. So how do you apply? Our application is not too labor intensive. We hope we try to keep it pretty straightforward and manageable. So you'd log into fax, tuition, or grant aid management. We also use fax as the aggregator for our tuition assistance applications. You log in, create your application. If you are at a school right now that uses fax, you can use your same login information. If you follow that link, that will link you to LaSalle Academy, and you can start that application. When you get onto the application, what do you need? Basic demographic information, where do you live, mom, dad, children's names, siblings, all that kind of stuff. And then, as you likely anticipate, income and expense from the household. So, if you have sort of a household budget that you sort of keep track of, that's going to allow you to probably fill out 95% of these questions without having to pour over too much data to just not, for anybody that's had a child go to higher education, this is not as complicated as a FAFSA application and pretty straightforward. So there are, in the application, I do always like to emphasize this, as you go through in different sections, there are some free response areas where you can give context to your application. So, numbers on paper tell one part of the story, but it doesn't tell everything. So the more context that the committee can have when reviewing an application, the better. The more that we can understand the full picture of the process. It is not, everybody's information is not just getting spit into a calculator and a number comes out and that's it. I'll go over what we do with that information a little bit later on, but again, the more practical context that we can have, the more effective the committee can be in meeting you where you are. Because as well, we understand that when the supporting documentation for tax returns or other information gets uploaded, that's often in arrears. So a lot can change in a year. So anything that you can find there is very helpful to us in that process. And lastly, upload the supporting documents. So you can submit the application without the documents. So I would encourage you at least, to get through that process. It won't stop you from submitting the application if you don't have your tax returns handy. So what are those documents? So again, the priority application, it's going to be your 2023 federal tax returns and then any supporting schedules that you have with that. So hopefully, if you either have a CPA or accountant that does your tax, or if you do them yourselves on a TurboTax or any one of those products out there, you can just get the full package of your 2023 tax return, and that will satisfy everything. That gets uploaded to fax, and you'll be able to take it from there. If you are in the standard application, it would be the same 2023 tax returns, but would also need your 2024 W-2s as part of that process. And in particular, and it's why it's highlighted, if your income is sort of non-traditional W-2 income, so you're self-employed, own a business, any one of the litany of reasons why that your income is not just on a kind of traditional and simple quote-unquote W-2, that would require your 2024 federal tax returns. And that is often can be a pain point for families if they did not meet the priority application deadline, because not typically, but a lot of times, people on that bucket of tax filers aren't filing until later, so often might request questions depending on the nature of the business. So that can substantially delay the process for you. So it won't necessarily disqualify you, but it will substantially delay the process and eventually can have harm, so to speak, in terms of what funding does remain available. Through those early rounds, that's not going to impact you. So what you've submitted your application, and now when you log into fax, you're going to see you could be in one of three status buckets, I will say. So you are going to start kind of in the submitted bucket. So that means you've done all of the kind of free response, self-response questions, but haven't uploaded the documents. So when you upload those documents, you'll move to what you'll see reflected as documents in process. So as the name implies, those documents you uploaded are now being processed by fax. So fax takes the documents that you uploaded, the tax returns, supporting schedules, verifies that everything is there based on the tax return, cross-checks that to the information input onto the application to see if there's strange anomalies or things like that, and gets that information back to us. That process typically takes, at the busier points of the year, upwards of 2 weeks. So now, they do that, but it's not uncommon for documentation to be missing, whether that's a schedule, whether that's something got blurry on the scan and you didn't notice it, so it's not legible. So fax at that point send you a notice. So we have a lot of families, that's not uncommon, it's not problematic, but we have a lot of families that you then go back to submitted, and people get stuck there. So I really want to emphasize point, keep an eye out when you submit your application for communications from fax. We will also send you a communication at the various points at which we issue determination notices to let you know it is in a submitted status or incomplete or wherever it might be if we aren't able to make a determination yet. But it's very common for that to get missed. So I just very much like to emphasize that point. So you get that notice, you see it come in, you say, oh, I missed that, I upload it, you go back to it's a process, fax does their thing, you're all good. So from there, you move to, it'll say verified, which means that all of that gets released to us at the school. Our internal review process will happen, and a determination will be issued. So throughout kind of the season, so to speak, starting at the end of January, once a month, determination notices go out to family, typically at the end of that month. So as you get those notices, the sooner you get that information back, the sooner you can hopefully hear, because again, at all points in the year, depending on the volume that fax is processing, it can take upwards of 2 weeks to get from documents in process into verified status. So, you're verified, now what? So, fax does take that information, they do a calculation based on the math of everything that you've input, certain higher level assumptions, sometimes based on taxes and certain other things that are regional averages and everything like that. You provide a very initial calculation. Importantly though, fax is not the one awarding tuition assistance. They send that information to us as part of the information that you submit, but they are not making board determinations. That all happens internally at the school. So, verified, again, just to kind of re-emphasize, in the office, your admission status will be confirmed. So, again, only accepted students are going to receive determination notices. So, that is just an important point to keep in mind as we go through the process. So once you're confirmed as accepted, and obviously we get that information a little early in January, so we can make sure you hear at the end of January. It then goes on to the Financial Assistance Committee for review. So I'll talk about that process a little bit more in the next slide, but the short is that two members of that committee will review every application for both qualitative and quantitative type information. So again, the free response, equally as any of the income and expense information that you put in there. So from there, and kind of after and during that process, your application will be reviewed against any endowment or special awards that might exist at the school that your child might otherwise be eligible for. So a number of endowments have certain qualifications, need to be from this area, need to have had CA in elementary and middle school, a litany of different things. So all of that information, though, that is needed is captured through the financial aid application, or certain components may have been captured through the admissions application. But we have all of that, and we review everybody against those pools of funding that's out there. So as part of the award. And then lastly, the award determination is issued, and that is sent via email. So it does not come through the mail, it's sent via email to whatever the primary email is on the financial aid application that you submit. So the review factor. So what goes into our review? A lot, right? So again, I really want to emphasize that it is not one size fits all. It is not a simple math equation. It is individualized as we go through every one. You know, 2 people spend time looking over, at least 2 people, every application that does come in. So this is really just a sampling of some of those things that are considered. So like obviously you'd expect, income and expenses, certainly a component of it. You know, location, where do you live? You know, do you have a longer commute? In particular, are you from Massachusetts and therefore you know, have no busing options? Are you from Rhode Island but outside of the radius or cities and group of cities and towns where free busing is available? Are you from Massachusetts where you can't necessarily get books from your city or town like you can from any city and town in Rhode Island? So that becomes part of the equation. Family size, you know, a family of 3 versus a family of 6 is going to have a different degree of you know, expenses and minimum concerns. Free response, again, the context. I think it's I probably repeating myself to a degree on it, but I really like to emphasize it because it does make our review. It gives us the capability to do a more thorough review in justice to your application and trying to meet your need. You know, academic success from where you may be coming from. So the admissions process is deed blind, and for the most part, you know, the tuition assistance process is as well. You know, if somebody's accepted, everybody is sort of reviewed initially, but certainly and particularly as we get into appeals and different points, you know, we want to make sure that you know, as all of you would be making a substantial investment in the school, the reality is the financial aid is a substantial investment from the school to help make it possible for you. So we want to make sure that it is going to those poised, you know, for the most success possible. Do both parents work? Do both parents not work? Does one a stay-at-home mom because there's a young child at home and the cost of daycare is astronomical? So those kind of things. Are there siblings in college or in a private K-8 school where there's a tuition? You know, we're a tuition-based school. We are a college preparatory school. So, you know, the reality is that we anticipate our students are going to go from here to college, and we have a lot of siblings that, you know, follow their older siblings here, and all of a sudden now the family is faced with you know, a college tuition on top of this, so that becomes a component. Or we have a number of families who come from parochial schools where their children, 2, 3, 4, are in you know, in a parochial school as well while they're here. So, you know, that gets considered. Are you caring for an elderly parent who otherwise, you know, who has either needs that keep again to the other point, a parent out of the home that has a financial burden? You know, if you are you know, when you're a returning student, certainly previous awards. If you are a new student but sibling of somebody who's been here before, what has the family's obligation been? You know, so those are, it's a lot, I know, but you know, that's kind of a quick just downloading of everything that we go through internally as we go through your application. So, and just one other point that, you know, so on the previous awards, that's otherwise I don't think I should actually covered in the slides, but, you know, financial aid, you know, as I said, are making an investment in your child and your family to make the school accessible. You know, and that's not something that we look to take. You know, we don't, it's not a bait and switch process. You know, we're not going to, in year 1, give you, you know, an award of X, and then in year 2, we're going to give you an award of X minus $5,000. We, you know, as long as things are relatively the same, you do have to reapply every year, but we are not looking to kind of bait and switch you in terms of, you know, well, let's get them in the door, and then all of a sudden we'll charge them a few thousand more dollars a year. We don't do that. In the reality, the financial aid tends to only, you know, increase as the years go through. Tuition increases, hardships that families face. You know, the unfortunate reality is that more families have less growth in their income than more over the course of those 4 years. So, you know, how is tuition assistance? I think people, you know, it's helpful to understand where where the dollars are coming from when you would see that determination notice outlining where your funding is coming from. So on the kind of the need-based side, which is primarily that is what the financial aid application is looking at. It's looking at need-based tuition assistance. So there is what we just simply call the Salle tuition assistance. That is funded through our annual operating budget. So we, that is accounted for that way. There are not necessarily other dollars behind that. There are the endowments that have been set up over the years through benefactors, philanthropists, alumni, primarily alumni, and some organizations that have set funds, given the school funds to invest in perpetuity to help fund the tuition assistance effort. So, and that's where oftentimes there are certain, I don't want to say restriction, guidelines for students from a particular area, region, or whatever the characteristic may be for those. The Diocese of Providence. So your application through fax is effectively shared with the diocese. The diocese provides the school a tranche of funds every year to allocate on their behalf to families. So, that is awarded through this process. So they have certain guidelines similar to an endowment that way that we need to make sure that applications meet, but the tuition assistance from the Diocese of Providence is awarded to a degree at our discretion within the confines of their guidelines. And then lastly, on kind of the need-based front, there are parishes and then just other organizations that support our students here now. By far the single biggest group would be parishes. So a number of parishes will have funds set aside every year to help their parishioners' children attend Catholic schools. So oftentimes if a parish has its own school, it does not do that. But in particular, a lot of those that do not have a school that they are operating, they'll offer those funds out. Sometimes it's only for K-8, sometimes it's only for high school, sometimes it's for K-12. So it's worth asking your pastor if that's something that they offer. So again, we don't have discretion over that. We are informed of that through the parish. They would send us a notice, and we then apply that credit to your tuition bill. We coordinate the funds being received through them, but so all we need is that letter from your pastor. And similarly, if it's not a parish, there are a number of organizations that partner with us. So RISE, Rhode Islanders Sponsoring Education is one, Star Kids, and a few others are some of the larger ones, but we've had others at different points in time. So if there is an organization that you're aware of that helps support secondary, high school educations, we'd be happy to figure out how to work with them and make sure that that credit can get applied to your tuition while they are here. So, and then, merit scholarships. So merit scholarships are all academic merit scholarships. So there are 4 tiers of those. There is the President's Scholarship. So that is $10,000 annual scholarship that is awarded to the top male and top female performers on the entrance exam that take the test here. It is possible to take the test elsewhere. That is just one of the that we do separate out that it does need to be a student that took the test here. Then there are what we just call academic scholarships. So that's $5,000 scholarship for all 4 years to 10 recipients who achieve in the 90th percentile or above. Our principal scholarship is $2,500 annually to 12 students in the 80th percentile or above. And the Lasallian scholarship, another 12 recipients in the 75th percentile or above. So, those funds get distributed to both potentially if you have applied for tuition assistance, but also not necessarily. It is based on kind of the leader is the performance on the test, and then a review of the overall profile of the students in partnership with the admissions office and the president's office the folks through that process. So, and then importantly, I just always like to highlight, there are no athletic scholarships, arts scholarships, or any other non-need-based types of scholarships outside of these 4 years. So I know that is often a common misconception that those things exist. They do not. So so those are the 4 kind of merit-based scholarship, again based on academic performance. So next couple slides, we will get into some numbers. So this is the tuition for next year. So the high school tuition is $18,120. That is, and there is the Explorer program that is available at the high school. That is an additional fee on top of the tuition. If you're in the program, you're eligible for financial aid. The only difference is that that the Explorer program is kind of an ancillary program. It's not really factored in so much to that decision process. Again, this is all, these numbers are on the website, they're on the forms for anybody that came to open house as well. So, for this school year, what was the financial aid like? So in total, we gave almost $5.2 million in assistance across all of the various categories that I just went over on 2 slides ago. That $5.1 million went to 49%, just about 1 out of every 2 students in the high school is receiving some form of tuition assistance, be that need-based, from an endowment, scholarship, from a third party, and very often some combination thereof. And the average award that went up to everybody was slightly in excess of $7,200, with kind of those awards ranging from $1,500 to shy of $14,000. So again, the tuition was slightly this year, so that range in the average would likely move slightly up anyway between years. So that is kind of a very high level picture of what financial aid looked like for this year that we are in. And so this next slide is a little bit more detailed. Again, this information is on our website as well. So breaking down a little bit of that award information by some kind of grouped income ranges. So as you can see, and as I'm sure you would expect, as income ranges go up, the average award goes down. The column to the right is just as a point of reference what the net tuition would look like based on those average awards. And then to the right of that, I think it's just one point of context that as this data set was sort of pulled together, as you may or may not anticipate, as income levels go up, the awards, family sizes, just one factor anyway, on average get larger. I didn't want to I didn't think there's any fractional people in anybody's family, so, but it'll go over 4 or under 4 as that kind of shifts. So, which does, as we kind of talked about earlier, play into that review process, and why as you get to certain thresholds, some of those awards, are still out there. If there's more than one child here, again, all those kind of things that sort of play into that, and how the review process is really individualized. So the next 2 slides. I will just pause for a second for anybody that's here. That was I've probably gone through too much without pausing, but I know there's a few numbers. So any questions from anybody here, or any questions that Brian or Monica? Yeah.
The average award, is that given every year, or is it just given once a year and then every year you have to reapply for financial aid?
Yes. So you have to reapply every year. So whatever. But that being said, whatever you would receive in your 9th grade year, barring some material shift up in terms of income, it's going to stay the same. It's after freshman year, I would consider the process, it's the same process in terms of you go through, but it's more of a re-verification process than it is, you're not going back to zero to be reassessed. You're starting from where you are and saying, okay, what's changed between years? So, does that answer your question? Yes?
So there's, merit award
Mhm.
and, or endowment and scholarship,
Yes.
right? So let's say you receive scholarship, does that play into a role on financial need as well? So does the model shift, I guess, is my question, being scholarship?
So, the processes run a little bit parallel, but not entirely, so, could it, but the short answer is, I think the short answer would be no, in that, you're gonna receive your need-based award, and really we do, in the same way that people have no financial need, kind of receive these merit-based awards as, acknowledgement of their child's performance. Similarly, the need-based assistance is kind of to try and get everybody to be, equal, paying a share that they can up to at least the whole tuition. So, somebody that wouldn't otherwise qualify or doesn't apply gets a discount. So in effect, the goal would be to still give that family that would have gotten X dollars in financial aid, X plus merit dollars in financial aid. To kind of, it is designed as a bonus. So I guess you could say on top of the need-based function.
So I guess what's, scholarship is put aside and then the family applications considered as a whole? I guess it's my question.
So the review processes kind of happen separate. So, financially, the committee gets involved in it, but the need-based review process happens, and then separately with other groups of people, through the admissions office, the president's office, then a principal's office, the merit scholarships are then determined through that process. So, as you probably would expect, given that about half of our students receive some form of aid, it's about half of those that receive some merit scholarship are also receiving some need-based assistance as well. Yes?
For the merit-based scholarships, I know you have the different percentiles of
Mhm.
performance. If you provide those to applicants that get accepted into the Salle, but they end up not into the Salle, would those roll down to the next in line?
So we redistribute that through the admission season, yeah. So if, say, we gave out a scholarship in January at the time of acceptance, and that student lets us know in February, I'm going somewhere else for whatever the reason might be, we certainly hope not. But if that does happen, we will reassess. The goal is to give out, the full value of those merit scholarships.
So then do you contact somebody that you might have already given in a letter to say, now you qualify for this merit-based?
Yes, so, because the merit, you wouldn't have been told you didn't get it, so the merit, but you would then get notified that you would have received merit. So, because you still would have heard on, so if you applied for need, you would still hear on that. That wouldn't, receiving or not receiving merit wouldn't impact that. But then if later in February it was redistributed, or March, whenever, you would then get notified at that point, that you received merit assistance.
For the endowments, do we have to do the research for what they might
No.
qualify for, or do you tell us here are the three that he could?
No, so really, so the endowments, anything that we need, I mean, it's nothing like, we purposely try to make them, when we work with donors to establish them, not overly restrictive, because that makes it difficult for us to award the funds. So everything that we would need to know who might qualify is captured in the application itself. So then we go through the application and find folks that are eligible and award at that point.
So automatics?
Yes, yeah, so there's no separate process
Yes,
to
I
be
know there's
considered.
hundreds of them. so-
Yes, so,
Okay.
yes, there's no separate process to be considered for any of the funding from any of the named endowments.
Patrick, just one question that I have online, and I don't know if you can you talk to how the financial information that they're sharing is safeguarded through fax?
Not specifically well, so I don't want to misspeak, but I do know they, as part of our annual audit process, they're obviously not audited by our auditors, but all of their security metrics and all of that is reviewed. It's called the SOC 1 report, and I think there's another one that we review and receive every year. So I can certainly try and get more information on that. So to whomever asked the question, please feel free to send me an email, or the team at the end of the slideshow, my email, as well as kind of an email that goes to the whole team, will be up on the slides. So please feel free to reach out and get you more information.
And then can we ask, is the income range on this slide AI or gross?
This would be gross. So yes. Yeah. Yes.
I have what about with someone that is applying for a parent, just the social security?
So you can indicate that on the application. So that's we do have that as well. So
Just repeat the question.
yes. So and maybe correct me if I did mishear, but just what happens if you either receive Social Security or SSDI payments or anything like that? And so that is. There's space for that in the application. So as you kind of go through the income sections and resources section of the application. So, yes.
Can you explain the average family size for the income range? Just because you have under and you have greater than, but what about if it is a family of 4?
Well, yeah. So I mean, the way it worked out is that kind of the averages when we had those groups of people, it was like 3.6 or 3.7. So it was the average family size was more of an output of once people were grouped by income versus family size and then where the income ranges fell, if that makes sense. So there was no, so when we were looking at, let's say, everybody that if their the income on their application was between $80,000 and $120,000, the average family size was, I think it was 3.72 or something like that. So it was kind of an output of that. So that's why there was no like clean number that came out of. So I guess I'd say, a family of 4 is, which I think is probably it's probably close to the average, which is both all kind of move up or down because if the family's bigger or smaller. So and in some ways, I just more pointed out on the higher side of the income more so than the lower side. That's that there's just more mouths to feed and more costs that go along with raising more children. And I guess I don't think I mentioned it before, but financial aid and need-based assistance is not designed to subsidize, I'll say, lifestyle choices in terms of things like that. It's not going to subsidize a boat, but if you have a family of 6 or 7, that's not something that that's something we consider and account for versus just an example of if you have $2,000 fees every month at the dock, like that's those things. Those are different categories of things. So so it's just kind of why I point out the family size is all.
Is there, kind of the minimum income that you expect the parents to have? Like, kind of thought it would run, you have to be
Yeah, so I would say no. I mean, we want to try and make it accessible, but I mean, I would say that if you were to look at the ranges that were up there, there are not full tuition scholarships really from anywhere. And I guess one thing I'll just kind of point out in the range. So one maybe nuanced there. That is the range of if we were on the other slide. Of awards from the funding that Salle has discretion over. So there are families paying less than that, or with total assist packages bigger than that. But those are typically coming from what they're being in addition from some other third party, be it a parish or one of those other organizations I mentioned. So So I wouldn't so much say that the answer is there's an explicit income, floor or ceiling. But, if on the application, I think, one thing that I think is important is that, on the application, as you're kind of looking at the application, putting in the numbers, again, and that's where context can be helpful if, it looks kind of, income and expenses are close to even, or maybe even slightly negative, and whatever the case may be, to use the context to say, yes, this might be the case, but grandma and grandpa are gonna help, or, aunt or uncle is gonna help, or whatever the case might be to help a little bit towards the tuition, so we can understand, because if the, I'll say the math piece doesn't add up, it's hard for us to make a decision as well. So if the math is close, so to speak, if it shows that, sometimes, and a lot of times it's from errors and other things, but, if we see an application that says the income is $25,000, $30,000 for family, but rent alone is $2,000 a month and there's $500 a month in car payments, something doesn't make sense there. Something's not possible there. So, as you're filling out the application, I would just say, review it and, it should make sense. So, zeros get slipped, things happen. But, if we, kind of like some of the other items, if we can't understand the application and then if there's no context, it delays you in the process. So,
Thank you.
yep, yes.
So this slide does not include scholarships, so the 1,500 to 13,785.
Correct, yeah, so that's,
Patrick, can you just repeat that?
yep, yes, so, the question that I was answering before was just if there was an income floor, or a minimum income, and then, that question was if the award range there, was inclusive of, the merit scholarships, and the answer to that is no, it would not be. Did I say that? Yeah.
Is the merit scholarship that's out each year, does it differ for the duration of the 4 years or no?
No, so it would be, so if you were to receive, the academics tier, the $5,000 a year, that's what you would receive every year. In the letter, there is a minimum GPA, but in all the years that this is my 12th or 13th year, we've never had somebody not be able to maintain that GPA. If it was happening, we notify people and try and keep it so. But so the amount doesn't change between years. I'll move on for now. The next two slides, the slide and the next one, taking a quick look at the actual payment options. So we offer 4 different payment plans. There's a 1 payment plan, a 2 payment plan, then a monthly plan of either 10 or 11 months. So these are the 1 and 2 payment plans, and then the, I guess, highlighted or in light maroon is what that payment installment would look like, less, and this is based on next year's tuition, based on this year's average age, so, plus or minus a little bit there, but, what that payment would look like after deducting the age. So, 1 and 2 payment plans, there is no enrollment fee, so we do not have a pay in full discount. However, there is a little bit of one because if you pay in full, there's no payment and enrollment fee. So it's not expressly off the tuition, but that there's no cost for enrolling with FACS. So you still do enroll with FACS on that plan. Yes?
What's the cost of the payment and enrollment fee?
You beat me to it. So if you're on the monthly payment plans, so we have a 10-month and an 11-month payment plan option. Both are designed to end in March of each year. And the 10-month would start in June, and the 11-month will start in May. So again, we not used to offer the 11-month, but we found that for a number of families, just the reality is, cash flow matters. There are 12 months of a year. We do know that, but we do still cap at 11 because things happen. Sometimes a payment needs to get moved, a payment has to get missed for whatever reason, and this sort of allows a little bit of wiggle if we need to before we get to the end of the school year, and you would be, starting the following school year's payments. So that's why we start the 11-month option earlier rather than ending it later. So ideally, everything is paid by March, but if not, there's a little bit of wiggle room there. So to your question, so the enrollment fee differs if you are on ACH, it should really be ACH or credit card, but a credit card, I would just, Fax does charge a processing fee with a credit card, so I would encourage, if you can, to avoid using that, just to avoid that additional fee. I believe it's 2.75 or 3% on top of that, and as well as there is an invoice option as well, but that fee is a little bit higher at $157, and that's for the year, obviously not monthly on top of anything. That's kind of the one-time enrollment fee there. So before I move on from there, any questions on the payment plans or anything? Yep.
So, like you're saying, the credit card has, what was it,
I think 2.75 or 3%. Yeah.
If you use a debit card, like that would not get charged in the same way, is that correct?
I don't know the answer to that 100%. I'm not certain. So.
You can check on that and put it in a follow-up email.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then the invoice enrollment, I'm sorry, like, is there a direct, draft? Because right now my kid's at school and it's just drafted from our check.
So that's the ACH. So yeah, ACH would be the
that's
direct draft.
ACH.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So yeah. So I say I say ACH as in, so you can just set it up as a direct draft from your bank account, ACH, or so I want to say I think there is still a fee with a debit card, just because debit card is to the bank anyway. So I think they encourage you to go to the bank because the reality is the fee is really real. It's not but it's just passing it through to you versus them it being absorbed. So whereas the fee for ACH drafts is nominal. So yes.
So the automatic withdrawal in the bank account, you only pay one fee of $7?
Correct. Yes.
And there are no monthly fees?
No. Correct. Yes. No monthly fee. As long. Yes. Correct.
And if you do the credit card, so there's the 67 plus the 3%?
Plus a processing fee on the payment amount. Yeah. But every time you make the payment.
What's the difference between the ACH and the invoice enrollment?
So the invoice is as it says, sent via invoice, so it's not not automatic. There is some additional processing cost to that, as well as being transparent. Additional degree of exposure for the school in terms of collection effort, just because of it is not automatic payment. It's a lot of ways the same reason why if you get a loan and once you go on auto pay, you typically get a 0.25% discount. That's kind of our way of giving anybody that's willing to do an automatic payment that 0.25% discount. Kind of do it. So. Yes.
Really quick, can you address a question of athletic clubs after school activities?
Basically none. I don't believe. I think we have an equestrian club now. We added in the last few years that has a small fee, but in terms of athletics themselves, there is no cost to participate. Class, their field trips. A lot of it's built in. I think sometimes the arts department, I think this groups goes to New York. There's a fee for a field trip, but that is direct to the cost. But in terms of to be on this team or that team, there's no fee.
Clubs, help after school, all that's included in tuition.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. Yes.
Fundraising, so I imagine part of the 5.1 million is through alumni contributions and also fundraising. Is there a minimum that each family has to raise per year?
So the question was, if the fundraising minimum, like some schools have, and the answer is no. There is no fundraising minimum for anybody.
Is there fundraising at all?
Yes, yes. So the fundraising does happen through our advancement office, kind of more, I'll say formally. I know some schools, there's a lot more student-driven, or I guess you could say funding, but we try to funnel those efforts just through our advancement office. But so yes, there is fundraising in all those kind of opportunities as well. So, yes.
Is there any extra curriculum activities that are actually paid? Because it sounds like none of them really are.
No, the only thing I'm fairly certain is equestrian. And I guess the only caveat I would say to that is that some clubs or teams, so not the athletic teams, and some of the clubs sometimes have certain travel that might have a fee for the travel, but there's no fee to participate. So, in the same way that like a class field trip might have a fee for the bus or ticket to the show or whatever it might be, there's that aspect of fee, but there's no default participation fee for anything, again, outside of equestrian. So.
Along the same lines, so uniforms for sports, as well as props or, costume for drama, musicals?
Yep, yeah, that's all, yeah, yep, uniform, yeah, you don't buy them, you don't get to keep them, but you don't buy them, uniform, all of that stuff, all of, I wouldn't normally stand on a checkerboard floor, but, as they're prepping for the play in December, all this just part of that. So, some events do have, like the theater shows are ticketed. That does go, some of the sport events are ticketed or have a ticket gate to help fund them, but there is no fee to the athletes or the families directly to participate. So these were some of the questions that we received ahead of time that weren't kind of otherwise captured in all the preceding slides. So first one, just kind of, I'll say default discounts. That so the short answer is there are not any. There's no sibling discount, no if you came from this school or that school discount, no paying full discount, any of that. So, and really our ideology behind that is, we want to help make the school affordable to everybody, but not necessarily, and so we want to conserve those dollars that would otherwise be providing discount for that need-based assistance. So, that's really the reason that is not there. And I certainly would say on the sibling front, while there is no default sibling, if you had 2 or 3 students here at one time, that's a big bill, and obviously that changes when you go back to that income screen. In terms of average awards, that obviously plays into that. So, so it is no, but that's really we want to conserve those dollars to make sure they're going where the need is highest, and not just because of X or because of Y. Next one, kind of marital situations, divorced parents, single parents, divorced or remarried parents. Those are, I'll be transparent. They're tricky for us, and we need the fullness of information. So in a single parent household, I guess I'll just, the reality is, biology dictates that had to have at some point been 2 parents. So we need context if it is a single parent household, where is parent number 2? Are they deceased? Are they just uninvolved? Are they paying child support? Are they not paying child support? Why? Why not? So that information is very helpful in those situations for us. I know some schools do, but we recognize, that it's often impractical, so we don't always require a family or, parent 1 and parent 2, in particular if parent 2 is not involved, to submit an application. I would just put a caveat out there that, please don't lie in that situation. We've had situations where we've found somebody perhaps being less than transparent to us, which is not great for anybody. So we want to help everybody, but we just want to understand the fullness of the situation. So, if don't have parent one apply and parent two, who isn't an involved parent, makes more money, so we're just going to hide all of that. And when it's found out, it's not appreciated. So please just be honest. We're not, we want to make it affordable. We understand if parents are separated, divorced, or whatever the case may be, that does result in there are two households being supported by those incomes. Expenses are not shared, many of them. So, the more information we can have, again, the better we can make a decision and be transparent back to you. Similarly, for any of those reasons, if a parent applying is remarried and is filing jointly with their new spouse that is not the student's parent, would I say that income is fully considered? No, but I would say that it is not fully discounted either. Those costs are now supporting the entirety of the household. That person married you and child and your family. So, while we understand that it is not their legal obligation, ultimately that other parent is helping to support the aggregate household, which does impact that calculation. So again, it's tricky. So, the more unique your situation may be, the more context, the better. So, yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you were talking about marriage and separate, in my case, my ex-husband doesn't live in the country, so that will affect if I don't put his contact.
So not necessarily, but let us know that in the pre-response sections. The question was, if the child's other parent does not live in the country, if there's not really contact information for that individual. That's okay, but again, tell us that. It's not gonna just get captured if you just hit single, or, whatever the case may be, or separated, or whatever. We don't know what a parent is, so, if you can add that context in, there's 2-3 points along the way in the application to add that, please do so, so we can understand that. And I'll jump ahead of my own bullet points because it kind of leads into what we're just talking about. But can you appeal your determination? Yes, you can. So I would say that we try to maximize the award as we go through this process. It's why I've repeated myself a number of times in terms of adding context using the free response section application. But yes, you can appeal, and if you think something was overlooked, please do let us know. But so we're really looking for new information in that appeal. There are some sections of it that are quantitative, numerical, and expense type things, but in that document. But there's a lot of space for the qualitative, contextual stuff to explain your situation more so, even more so than you might have been able to on the application. So, if you think something was overlooked, and in particular, I say it kind of flows into those other situations. Talk about if the marital situation is not simple, I'll say, that would be an avenue to do that. So, slide, you'll see an email for the general financial aid. You would send an inquiry there, and we can get you into that process. So that can be done. And then just mid-year enrollment, there is not assistance kind of when you enroll mid-year. Tuition would be prorated, but there is no, we do give out all the assistance by the start of the school year. So those are all the questions we received. So yes.
I have two questions.
Yeah, please.
I was a little late to the presentation, so
I know. So I apologize to. We had a little we crossed the times on the document, so I understand. So, in particular to anybody that did show up a little bit late, I will be here. In the back of the room there is Amy Tellier and Dee Braga, who are in the office and can also help answer questions. So that goes for everybody as well, but I do apologize about the little time mix-up, so.
That's great. Is the deck gonna be available? Is this like a deck you're gonna share? with
Yes,
us?
yeah,
Okay.
yes, yep.
So I'm not sure if it was covered in the first part, but is it, income, expenses, assets?
Yes, so, yes, yes, so, like, you know, your retirement bank accounts and things like that.
Anything that's in the child's name, does that have to be disclosed?
Um,
So parents.
Parents, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then the other question is, so just say you do apply, you get in, you get some financial aid. Second year, or even in first year, something drastically changes, someone loses a spouse, or loses a job, or someone gets sick. Can you reapply for more financial aid within the school year? Or is it kind of a batch of tuition and that's what it is?
So we do have, kind of an appeal process for those type of things. So, the first question was, kind of covered earlier, but it was on, income, expense, and then any, assets like account or retirement account balances, things like that. The second question was, if you, have a hardship, and, something happens during the year. So yes, we can, we definitely, I think I said it earlier, kind of in a different context, but, when admissions welcomes you in via acceptance, and you say you're coming here, we, we want you here, we want to keep you here. So when you come through the doors, we recognize that life happens. We are fortunate as well that we've had, so principal funding for hardship assistance comes through, has come through fundraising efforts and has kind of allowed us to have those funds to be able to help when life happens to people, whether it's job loss, death, sickness, and, natural disaster, everything in between. So yes, actually, hopefully everybody here will be there in early September when we have our parent night. But I usually speak at that and kind of re-emphasize that point to people then, that life happens over the course of time, and so we are here to help, and don't be afraid to reach out when you're due. So. Yes.
Right back, triggered a thought in my head, so 529 plans, so we don't need to include those.
No, but you can use 529 plans to pay the tuition.
Right,
Yes,
but
yes.
you're receiving that for college and.
Correct, yeah, yeah.
So we don't need to.
No. Well, I think it might ask, but so we generally are not, so it does ask questions about the assets, but unless you just happen to have, $1 million just sitting in your checking account, it's, we don't, it'll ask about retirement assets, we don't consider any, we're not, nobody's gonna draw from their retirement to pay for the tuition, things like that, so it is asked, but even when I had the little, circles up on the screen, I didn't really put assets up there because it's really not, it is captured through the application, but that's not really what we're looking for, unless there's a anomaly, sometimes in both directions. Well, primarily, as it happens and somebody slips a decimal point or whatever, so.
Just asking this for other families, like, we already fill out the
Mhm.
form for our current school. Is it a separate login that we create for Salle?
You can use the same login credentials. So you just have to, so if you follow that link and you use the login credentials, it'll link you into be able to get tied to LaSalle. Yes, yep. Any other questions, comments? If not, well, I appreciate everybody that has come here tonight to join us here, as well as virtually. I and Amy and Dee will be sticking around for a while. If there's any questions that are better asked, not in front of a few hundred people between here and online. Happy to address those now. If not, please, that's my contact information, the offices, so please don't hesitate to reach out. To help you and see your children here. So, thank you.